She flipped her hair as though dismissing me was a formality and remarked, "We don't need old men like you dragging us down." Stanley Rowe is my name. For the last 18 years, I, 59, have served as the operations manager of Harper Machinery in Indianapolis, Indiana. He was a steady hand that kept the wheels going at a company that produced industrial equipment for half the factories in the Midwest, not the type of man who spoke or demanded attention at meetings. I simply gave Vanessa a mocking smile, gave her a single nod, and left her office. There were no fights, threats, or drama, just a meticulous clearing of my desk while the younger employees looked away. I had trained each and every one of them, some of whom had been employed as teenagers and are now adults with families. However, while I put nearly 20 years of my life into a cardboard box, no one said. 4 eerie years ago, Charles Harper found the business by hand. Began with a single lathe in his garage, and with perseverance and a reputation for dependable equipment, grew it into a $30 million company. When his health began to deteriorate, he personally chose me to oversee operations. He had stated, "You are the only person I trust to not take shortcuts." Now, his 28-year-old daughter, Vanessa, who has a business degree and has lived in Miami for 2 years, had determined that the company required modernization and fresh perspectives, code to eliminate anyone who could recall the days before spreadsheets took the place of common sense. I experienced an odd serenity as I carried that pitiful box of personal belongings to my pickup, because there was a very specific phrase in my employment contract that Vanessa was unaware of and hadn't even bothered to examine. Charles himself had demanded a severance payment equivalent to 2 full years' salary in the event that I was fired without cause in order to prevent me from being lured away by rivals. I put the box in the passenger seat and sat with my hands on the steering wheel for a minute. I could see the manufacturing floor via the windshield, equipment that I had kept up myself, systems that I had put in place. I had employed people who were about to discover what occurs when institutional knowledge leaves. I didn't scream as I left the parking lot or slammed the door. Turned the key, put the truck in gear, and went home to phone Harold Preston, a friend of mine who was a lawyer and had been waiting for a reason to take on a case this simple. I had never been the ostentatious kind. I was married to my wife, Linda, for 29 years before she passed away from cancer 4 years ago. Raised 2 successful children, a daughter teaching 3rd grade in Cleveland, and a son working for an engineering firm in Denver. Dependability and constancy had been the cornerstones of my life. I had applied the similar strategy to Harper Machinery. Charles Harper was more than a manager. Since my own father vanished when I was 11 years old, leaving my mother to raise 3 boys on a secretary's salary, he served as a father figure I never truly had in many respects. At 41, having recently been laid off from a failing car plant and possessing only practical experience and a mechanical engineering degree from a community college, Charles had taken a chance on me. During my interview, Charles had stated, "Credentials don't build machines. Sensible and skilled men do." Within 2 years, he had elevated me to operations manager. After work, Charles and I weren't the kind to go out to bars or go fishing together. However, we shared a respect that extended beyond the office. He was the one who, without my asking, rearranged my schedule when Linda became ill so that I could attend all of her treatments. Family first, Stanley. Always. The first warning sign came about a year ago when Vanessa started showing up at meetings, fresh out of business school, carrying a leather portfolio and trailing a cloud of expensive perfume, talking about synergy and market disruption. I catch Charles wincing sometimes at her suggestions, proposals that would have gutted our quality control or outsourced components we'd always made in-house. But he never contradicted her publicly, just quietly fixed things afterward. "She needs to learn, Stanley," he told me one afternoon, leaning against my office doorframe. "Some lessons can't come from books." The second warning was when Charles announced his retirement 3 months ago. Heart problems, he said, though I suspected it was more about succumbing to Vanessa's pressure. He looked defeated when he handed me the updated organization chart with Vanessa's name at the top. "I made her promise to keep the core team intact," he'd said, not quite meeting my eyes. "The experience you all bring is what makes this place work." I just nodded, but something in my gut tightened. The way Charles wouldn't look directly at me, like he knew what was coming but couldn't bring himself to say it. The morning after my termination, I was sitting at my kitchen table reviewing my employment contract with Harold when my phone rang. Charles's name lit up the screen. I almost didn't answer it. Almost. But 18 years of respect doesn't vanish overnight. Stanley. His voice sounded strained. What the hell happened yesterday? Ask your daughter, I said, keeping my tone neutral. Not angry. Just stating facts. I did. She said you were. He paused, searching for words. Resistant to the new direction. Said you were undermining her authority with the floor team. I said nothing. Just let the silence stretch between us. Charles knew me better than that. Knew I'd never undermined anyone. You're going to file, aren't you? He finally asked. Already have, I replied. Harold Preston is handling it. Charles exhaled heavily. I told her to look at the contracts. Told her before I stepped down that there were protections in place. Another pause. She said she cleaned the house yesterday. You, Thomas, Jennifer? Anyone over 50? My jaw tightened. Thomas had been our head of engineering for 12 years. Jennifer ran the quality control lab like it was her personal kingdom, both irreplaceable in their own ways. Is that the direction you wanted, Charles? Clearing out everyone who built the place with you? You know it's not, he said, voice tired. But I gave her control. It's hers to run now. I heard voices in the background on his end, one of them distinctly Vanessa's, sharp and demanding. I've got to go. The call ended abruptly. I set the phone down and stared at my contract spread across the table. Section 12, Paragraph 3. In the event of termination without documented cause as defined in Appendix C, employees shall be entitled to severance compensation equal to 24 months of current salary. Harold had highlighted it in yellow. It's airtight, he told me earlier. They'll either pay or we'll take them to court, where we'll win, and they'll pay my fees too. I walked to the window overlooking my backyard. The maple tree Linda and I had planted when we first moved in 26 years ago now towered over the property. We nurtured it through 2 lightning strikes and a disease that nearly killed it. Patched it up, supported it, gave it what it needed to thrive. Something shifted inside me. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about value, about recognizing what experience brings to the table, about respecting the foundation others built before you decide to renovate the house. I picked up my phone and called Thomas, then Jennifer. By noon, I'd spoken with every veteran employee Vanessa had asked. Some were shell-shocked, others furious, all of them worried about their futures. Take a breath, I told each of them. Check your contracts. Call Harold. Then I made one more call to Douglas Clean, owner of Precision Parts across town, a man who'd been trying to hire me away from Harper for years. Still interested in that conversation? I asked him. 3 days after being fired, I sat across from Vanessa and Harper Machinery's corporate attorney in a downtown office. Harold Preston sat beside me, his weather briefcase open, my contract prominently displayed. This is ridiculous, Vanessa said, not even looking at the document. We're implementing a new direction. That's cause enough. Harold, 67, with the patient demeanor of a man who'd seen every corporate trick, simply pointed to the highlighted clause. Termination without cause, as defined in Appendix C, requires severance equal to 24 months' salary, approximately $320,000 in Mr. Rose's case. The corporate lawyer, a young guy named Justin who looked fresh out of law school, scanned the contract with growing discomfort. Miss Harper, the definition of cause here is quite specific. Performance issues, ethical violations, criminal acts. He was resistant to change, Vanessa interrupted, crossing her arms. That's insubordination. Where's the documentation? Harold asked. Written warnings, performance improvement plans? Because Appendix C requires a documented pattern, not a single instance. Justin flipped through a thin folder in front of him, finding nothing. Vanessa's face tightened. Fine. So we pay him a few months' severance and move on. 24 months, Harold corrected. As stipulated. That's ridiculous, she snapped. We'll offer 6 months. Take it or leave it. I stayed silent, watching her. In that moment she reminded me of her father, the same stubborn set to her jaw. But Charles's stubbornness had always been in service of building something. Hers seemed aimed at tearing down. Harold closed his briefcase. Then we'll proceed with legal action. Discovery should be interesting, especially regarding the simultaneous termination of multiple employees over 50. Justin's eyes widened slightly. He leaned toward Vanessa and whispered something urgent. She brushed him off. Before you make threats, Vanessa said to me, ignoring Harold completely, you should know we're prepared to fight this. You'll be tied up in court for years. I finally spoke. I've got time, and we'll make it known throughout the industry that you're difficult. She added, good luck finding another position at your age. That's when her father appeared in the doorway. I hadn't seen Charles since his retirement party. He looked thinner, paler, but his eyes were sharp as ever. Vanessa, he said quietly. A word. We're in the middle of something, Dad. Now. Not a request. They stepped outside through the glass wall of the conference room. I could see them arguing, Charles gesturing emphatically, Vanessa's posture growing more defensive. When they returned, Vanessa wouldn't look at me. Justin, Charles said, prepare the severance agreement as written in the contract. Dad, Vanessa started. Now. Charles turned to me. I apologize, Stanley. This isn't how I wanted things to end. I nodded once. Nothing more needed to be said between us. As Harold and I stood to leave, Vanessa stepped in front of me. This isn't over. I'll be reviewing all vendor relationships. Any company that hires you can forget about doing business with Harper. Charles paled at her words, but said nothing. I just nodded again, thinking about my conversation with Douglas Clean the day before, about the partnership offer he'd made, about the niche market Harper had been ignoring for years that Precision Parts was poised to enter. You're right about one thing, I told her. It isn't over. The severance payment hit my account a week later, $320,000 minus taxes, more money than I'd ever seen at once. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. Money wasn't the point. Neither was revenge, really. It was about something deeper. That same afternoon, I met Thomas Baldwin, our former head of engineering, at a diner halfway between our homes. The place was nearly empty at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just a couple of truckers at the counter and us in a back booth. Harold got me a year's severance, he said, stirring his coffee without drinking it. Not as good as your deal, but better than nothing. They want you to sign an NDA. Thomas nodded. Can't talk about proprietary processes or business practices for 5 years. He gave a bitter laugh. 40 years in engineering, and suddenly I can't talk about my own work. You signing it? Don't see much choice. Got a granddaughter starting college next year. I pushed a business card across the table. Douglas Clean, Precision Parts. He's looking for a consultant, I said. Someone who understands precision hydraulics. No NDA required. Thomas stared at the card. Harper would sue me if I took this. Not if you're just advising on general industry standards. Nothing proprietary about that. He pocketed the card slowly. What's going on, Stanley? This isn't like you stirring the pot. I hadn't told anyone about my arrangement with Douglas yet, but Thomas deserved to know. We'd worked side by side for over a decade. I'm partnering with Precision, I said quietly. Douglas is bringing me in to head up a new division. Specialized hydraulic components. The small batch, high margin stuff Vanessa thinks is a waste of time.
Thomas's eyebrows shot up.
The custom work. Charles always said that was Harper's future, and Vanessa's killing it to focus on mass production. Thinks she can compete with overseas manufacturers on price. She can't, Thomas said flatly. Not with our labor costs.
I know. So does Charles.
Thomas leaned forward. Is that why you're telling me this? You think Charles is involved somehow?
I shook my head. No.
But I had lunch with Jennifer yesterday. She said Vanessa's been liquidating equipment. The specialized machinery Charles bought last year for the custom work. She's already sold half of it. That's over $2 million in equipment, Thomas said, eyes wide. At auction prices, probably got 30 cents on the dollar.
Thomas sat back, understanding dawning. She's stripping the company, converting assets to cash.
I nodded.
And guess who's been buying property in Miami?
Jesus.
Thomas ran a hand over his face. Does Charles know? I don't think so. He built that company for legacy, not liquidation.
We sat in silence for a moment, both processing what this meant, not just for us, but for the 100-plus employees still at Harper, for Charles's life's work.
What are you going to do? Thomas finally asked.
Build something better, I said simply, something that respects both the past and the future, with Douglas clean.
Thomas sounded skeptical. Douglas is just an investor.
2 years from retirement himself. Wants to back people who know what they're doing and step aside.
And let me guess, you need an engineer who understands hydraulics.
I smiled for the first time in weeks. The position's yours if you want it. Once your NDA is limited to actually proprietary information, not general knowledge.
Thomas studied me. This isn't just business for you, is it? It's personal.
It's about value, I said. About building something that lasts. That's all I've ever wanted to do. 2 months after my firing, I sat in Douglas Clean's office reviewing architectural plans for the new facility. The converted warehouse on the east side of Indianapolis would house Cornerstone Precision, our new venture specializing in custom hydraulic components.
The name had been Thomas's idea.
Build from the corners up, he'd said. That's how you make something that lasts. Douglas, a barrel-chested man with a full white beard and perpetually rolled-up sleeves, spread the supplier contracts across his desk. Machine shops confirmed, he said. They can deliver the first 5 units by next month, and the CNC programmer starts Monday. Douglas gave me a knowing look. Former Harper employee. Said you recommended us. I nodded. Jason Wright had been a Harper for 6 years. Brilliant with computer modeling. Criminally underpaid. Vanessa had cut his department's budget by 30% while doubling her own salary. He quit 2 weeks ago. How many does that make now? Douglas asked. 7. I replied. All top performers. Douglas whistled low. Harper's losing talent fast. People follow good leadership. I said. Vanessa's not providing it. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Still working in Harper's lab, but feeding me information. With her retirement 3 years away, she couldn't afford to leave, but she could certainly keep her eyes open. The message contained a photo of an internal memo. Production delays, quality control issues, 3 major clients threatening to pull contracts over missed deadlines. I showed it to Douglas, who adjusted his reading glasses to see better. Just as we predicted, he said. The brain drain's affecting output already. I pocketed my phone, feeling no satisfaction in the news. Harper employed families I'd known for years, people with mortgages, kids in college, parents in nursing homes. Their suffering wasn't my goal. We should reach out to Midwest Manufacturing, I said, referring to one of Harper's biggest clients. Let them know we'll be operational in 60 days. Douglas nodded, making a note. Already scheduled a meeting for next week. Their purchasing manager's eager to talk. I stood and walked to the window overlooking the warehouse floor below. Workers were installing the first pieces of equipment. The bones of something new, something built on respect for experience and innovation alike. My phone rang. Charles Harper's name on the screen. I should take this, I told Douglas, who nodded and stepped out, closing the door behind him. Charles, I answered. Stanley. His voice sounded tired, defeated. We need to talk. I'm listening. A heavy sigh. I know what you're doing. The new company. The Harper employees you're hiring away. I said nothing. It wasn't illegal. Wasn't even unethical. Just business. I'm not calling to ask you to stop, Charles continued. I'm calling to ask for your help. That caught me off guard. What kind of help? The kind that might save what's left of my company. He paused. Vanessa's been selling off assets, cutting corners on quality. The board's concerned. So am I. Why tell me this? Because you're the only one who knows every part of the operation, the only one who might see a path forward. Another pause. And because I should have listened to you months ago when you warned me she wasn't ready. I closed my eyes, thought about all those years working alongside Charles, building something we were both proud of, something that employed hundreds of people who trusted us to make good decisions. What exactly are you asking, Charles? Come to my house tonight. 7. Bring Thomas if he's willing. The board wants to meet to discuss options. Options? Yes. Charles's voice strengthened slightly, including a change in leadership. I looked down at the warehouse floor again, at our small but growing operation, at the future I'd been building out of the ashes of betrayal. I'll be there, I said finally, but I'm not promising anything. Fair enough, relief evident in his voice. And Stanley? Yes. Thank you for still taking my calls. 6 months after being fired, I stood in the back of Harper Machinery's main conference room. The quarterly all-hands meeting had just been called to order with Vanessa at the head of the table, flanked by her new executive team, most under 35, all looking nervous. I wasn't supposed to speak until the end. That had been the agreement with the board. Let Vanessa present her quarterly results first. Give her the chance to explain the 37% drop in revenue, the lost contracts, the quality control failures. She was halfway through presentation blaming market conditions and legacy inefficiencies when she noticed me. What is he doing here? She demanded, pointing in my direction. Charles, sitting quietly among the board members, nodded to the chairman, who stood. Vanessa, the chairman said, the board has reached a decision regarding the company's leadership. Her face went white. You can't be serious. Stanley, the chairman continued, turning to me, would you like to explain the new arrangement? I stepped forward, holding a folder, the same one Harold had prepared for my severance 6 months earlier, but with very different contents now. Harper Machinery is merging with Cornerstone Precision. I said, my voice steady. The board has approved the acquisition agreement this morning. Vanessa laughed sharply. This is absurd. I'm the majority shareholder. No, Charles said, standing slowly. You hold huvudsaklig. I maintain 51%, which I've now voted in favor of the merger. I slid the folder across the table to her. Cornerstone will absorb Harper's custom hydraulics division. The rest will continue under new leadership. My leadership, Thomas said, stepping in from the doorway. Vanessa flipped through the documents, her hands shaking. This is business. I finished for her, nothing personal. A year after the merger, I stood in the expanded production facility that now housed both Cornerstone Precision and Harper Custom Hydraulics. Workers moved efficiently between stations, the rhythm of machinery creating a symphony of productivity I'd missed during my months away. Charles joined me on the observation platform, leaning heavily on his cane. His health hadn't improved, but his spirit had. Watching the company thrive again had been the best medicine. Quarterly numbers came in, he said, handing me a report. Best in 5 years. I nodded, scanning the figures. Profit margins up. Employee retention stabilized. 3 new patents filed. Vanessa called yesterday, Charles said quietly. From Miami? I raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. After the merger, she'd taken her settlement and disappeared. No Woodwise, no paradis. She's starting a consulting firm, he continued. Asked if I'd invest. Will you? Charles shook his head. Told her come back to Indianapolis first. Learn the business from the ground up. The way I did, the way you did. And she hung up. He smiled sadly. But she called back this morning, asked if the offer still stood. Below us, I watched Jason training 2 new programmers on our latest system. Jennifer in her lab coat, inspecting components with her characteristic precision. Thomas at a workstation, sketching a design modification by hand before transferring it to computer. Experience and innovation working side by side, not in conflict, not one replacing the other, but building something stronger together. You know, Charles said, when I wrote that severance clause in your contract, I never imagined how it would turn out. I smiled. Neither did I. We stood in comfortable silence, watching the company we'd both helped build continue to grow. Some lessons are expensive, but the ones that stick, the ones that change how we see the world, those are always worth the price.
I was poor and had little money growing up. But now Emily is a good employee who helps our business. She is not who Mr. Brown believes her to be. Would you mind changing what you said? After I made my request to the couple, I noticed the pair seated in front of me snicker. In this case, why would he smirk? The couple's icy, contemptuous gaze made me recall that I had been scrutinized with similar eyes when I was a teenager. No matter what I say, people who stare at me like this rarely take me seriously. As I recalled these earlier incidents, I started to restore my composure. I get it. We apologize. As I stated that, Emily and I walked out of the Brown house. I worked alone at the office earlier than normal the following day. I woke up earlier than normal that day since I had a hard time sleeping the night before. I couldn't stop thinking about the incident from the day before, so I switched on the workplace TV to divert my attention as I worked. On the TV screen, employee bullying suspected at Chase Bank then appeared. To my surprise, I spent some time watching the news before phoning Emily. Good morning, bro. Why are you awake so early? Can you switch the television on? The bullying issue at Chase Bank is being addressed. John Smith is my name. At 36, I oversaw a small local construction company and had a hectic daily schedule. I became president 3 years ago after the previous one became ill. Given that I was elected president at an early age, some may view it as a successful life. But my life hasn't been simple at all. I don't remember eating a proper meal with my parents or feeling appreciated by them. My parents drank during the day, fought easily, and were never consistently employed. I was unable to have a good student life because of my parents, and I had to begin working as soon as my mandatory education was over. After a long absence, my mother came home one day, fatigued from new work. There was a little girl next to her that I didn't recognize. "This is your sister," my mother stated icily, ignoring my perplexity. "Take care of Emily starting today." At the time, Emily was just 3 years old. My mother left her with me, apparently fed up with her incessant sobbing. I took care of my sister and worked during the day after that. I even brought Emily to work with me when we were truly short on funds. However, Emily was taken care of by the previous president and all of the staff members. I have a deep affection for this organization, which I led to its current state as president 3 years ago. The day got underway early. I was the first person at the workplace, so I opened my laptop and started reading the reports from the construction site. I eventually heard the door of the office open. "Emily, you're early today." "You too, my friend. You start working hard in the morning and never stop. Is there anything I can do to help?" Emily walked drowsily into the office, her gaze fixed on the door. Emily has been an accounting clerk for this company since she became president 3 years ago. "No, I'm merely reviewing reports. However, have you been getting enough sleep recently?" "You can see how healthy I am. Please let me know if I can be of any assistance. Oh, and I want to talk to you about something. Do you have time today?" "Well, I have no meetings today, so I'm free during lunch break."
Many thanks. After that, let's have lunch at the local diner. When we were done talking, Emily vanished into the break room. Emily and I now live alone in an apartment close to the workplace after selling our family home a few years ago. We talked about living together, but Emily decided she wanted to live alone since she wanted to be independent. After finishing my conversation with Emily, I returned my focus to the reports. Soon other employees arrived, and another day at the office began. And just like that, the hectic morning work came to an end. Before I knew it, it was lunch break. Emily and I headed to the diner we had promised to meet at. As we entered and took our seats, I immediately addressed her. Emily, why the sudden talk? What's going on? Well, actually, I've been seeing someone recently. Really? Someone I know? I was taken aback by her words and couldn't help but interrupt with a question. You probably don't know him. I go to the bank often for my accounting job, right? I got to know someone working there. Yeah. We met a few times through work, and somehow we just got closer. Chase Bank is a local bank operating in this area. It's a familiar institution for us since we use it for employee salaries and deposits. And the person I'm seeing is Mr. Brown's son. I was surprised by her revelation. I knew that Chase Bank's presidency was passed down through blood relatives, that the bank's president's son was Emily's partner. His son, you say? I'm honestly shocked to think he's the son of the bank president. So what did you want to talk about? Emily began to speak, looking somewhat troubled as she looked down. His name is Michael. I happened to be there when his father came to the bank the other day, and I overheard a conversation by chance. He was reprimanding an employee quite harshly. Well, it's not good to scold someone in front of customers, but it's understandable to give a talking to about work. But it was more like he was belittling their education. I heard Mr. Brown saying, "Don't talk back to me when you're not even from a well-known university." That's awful. I've gotten angry at my employees or partners for making mistakes or being rude, but it's always about their actions, not their education. Judging someone based on their education is not acceptable. Michael was there too, and he said, "My father has always valued education and career history. I want to continue seeing him, but I'm a bit scared of dealing with his father." Emily confessed with a sad look. Emily and I don't boast impressive educational backgrounds, but we've never felt inferior because of it. Emily, through self-study, has become competent in accounting, proving that a person's worth can't be measured by education alone. Emily, you have no reason to feel inferior about your life. If you ever have to deal with President Brown, I'm sure he'll come to understand and appreciate your character. Thanks. I hope so, she replied, and we left the diner. Emily continued her relationship with Michael, occasionally updating me about their situation. 2 months after our discussion, Emily arranged for me to meet Michael, her boyfriend, in person after work. I headed to the restaurant where they were waiting. She had never introduced me to her boyfriends before, so this meeting signified her serious intentions with Michael. Feeling a bit nervous, I entered the restaurant. After telling the staff our reservation name, I was guided to our table. "Hey, brother. Thanks for making time today. Let me introduce you again. This is Michael Brown, my boyfriend," she said a bit shyly. "Pleasure to meet you, John. I've always heard about you from Emily. Thank you for coming today." Michael greeted me with a kind expression as he sat next to her. "Nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you from Emily as well. Thank you for setting up this meeting," I replied. Michael, dressed in a neatly tailored suit, looked very presentable, but his smile revealed a youthful friendliness. As we exchanged greetings, the conversation flowed smoothly. Over the course of the meal, we talked about how they met, Michael's job, and before we knew it, an hour had passed. The conversation naturally shifted to my company. "John, it's amazing being so young and already a company president is really impressive. I respect that," Michael said. "That's not true. And Michael, you're going to take over your dad's position as president in the future, right? I asked. That's the plan, but I still lack the knowledge and experience, so it's going to take some time, Michael replied, continuing with a somewhat troubled expression. Also, lately, my father has been making dismissive comments towards employees. It seems to be causing some frustration in my department. I've heard a bit about that from Emily before. Is he the type to care about educational background and social standing? Yes, he has always been like that. But I believe that you can't judge a person solely on their past education or social status. Hearing this, I felt a bit relieved. It was clear that Michael could see the true essence and character of people. Emily has also told me about your past. I was indeed surprised at first, but that alone would not make me dislike Emily. I want to continue being with her. I'm glad to hear you say that. Our conversation went on, and it was clear that they were in a relationship with a serious view of the future. Michael would surely make her happy. However, from what I've heard from Michael, his father seems to be quite concerned about appearances. While I support their future together, I doubt he would be pleased to hear about our past. Hearing their happy news brought relief, yet thinking about the future, I couldn't help feeling a bit anxious. With these mixed feelings, we finished our meal and headed home. A year has passed since meeting Michael, and a new fiscal year has begun. In October, our company expanded, adding 20 new employees, and we've taken on contracts for major construction projects exceeding $200 million. The company's performance and reputation have started to grow, allowing us to undertake various constructions. My workload has increased, leading to busier days. Emily and Michael continued their relationship, and over the past year I've had several opportunities to dine with them. Today, after meetings with clients and site inspections, I returned to the office around 7 p.m., not expecting anyone to still be there. As I opened the office door, I was greeted with, "Welcome back, brother. You were checking sites today, right? Good job." Emily, you're still here? You should head home and rest soon. Emily was beside her computer, surrounded by a calculator and piles of receipts, apparently working on something. Actually, I have something to report to you. What's up? Well, last night, Michael and I went out for dinner, and he proposed to me on the way home. Hearing this, I nearly spit out my drink in surprise. Really? That's great, Emily. Thanks, brother. So we talked about our future after he proposed, and we're thinking of visiting Michael's parents soon to greet them. Would you come with us? Of course, that's fine. But have you talked to his parents before? As I asked, she looked a bit gloomy. That's the thing. I haven't met them in person yet. I wonder if they'll approve. It'll be okay if you express your feelings clearly. I'm sure his parents will understand. Thanks as always. I feel like you're always saving me. Well, I am your brother after all. It's only natural. Then, as a way of thanking you, I'll work even harder to support your company from now on. With that, our conversation ended. A month has passed since then, and the day we were to greet Emily's future in-laws came. I was nervous from the morning, fidgeting as I got ready. Then the doorbell rang. It was Emily coming to pick me up. Morning, brother. Are you ready? Yeah, all set. Let's go. We drove to Michael's family home, the Brown residence. The Brown residence boasts the largest property in this neighborhood, a true mansion by any standard. Emily rang the doorbell with a nervous expression. Michael's father emerged from inside and led us to the living room. Michael was already waiting, which eased our tension slightly upon seeing a familiar face. Thank you for coming today. My father will join us shortly. Please have a seat. At his invitation, we sat down on a large sofa. Emily seemed even more nervous, sitting next to me. A few minutes later, the living room doors opened and Michael's parents came in together. Emily and I greeted them, handing over a gift bag as a token of our visit. I appreciate you coming all this way. Michael has told me about you. You must be Emily, and standing beside you must be your brother, John." His father greeted us warmly, contrary to our expectations of a cold reception. "Yes, it's nice to meet you. I'm Emily, and I'm dating Michael. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today," Emily responded, seemingly sharing my surprise at their kindness. Following our greetings, Emily and Michael formally asked for their blessing to marry, which they gladly gave. "Have you already greeted both your parents? We'd like to hold a formal engagement ceremony before the registration. Depending on the timing, how is that coming along?" Michael's father inquired, causing Emily and I to exchange looks. His inquiry revealed that Michael hadn't mentioned our estrangement from our parents. Seeing our troubled faces, Michael explained on our behalf. "Dad, I haven't mentioned this, but it seems Emily and John are estranged from their parents who disappeared when they were young." His father, surprised, interjected, "So you two don't have parents? How did you grow up without them?" Just as I was about to speak up, Emily, sitting beside me, confidently responded to them. "Our parents left us before I could even remember. Since then, my brother, who was still a teenager, worked to raise me." The couple looked at us with astonishment. We agreed to this marriage because we heard she was the sister of a construction company president. To think we've drawn such a short straw. I'm sorry, but we cannot approve of this marriage. Michael must marry someone more elite and well-educated. Angered by his remarks, I couldn't help but retort. Indeed, we grew up poor, but Emily is now a valuable employee who supports our company. She's not at all the person you think she is. Please reconsider, I beg you. Saying this, I made my request to the couple. However, from the couple seated in front of us, a chuckle was heard. Surprised, I looked up to find them glaring down at us. Poor orphan should just go home. Why would he smirk in such a situation? Seeing their cold, disdainful eyes, I realized I had been looked at with the same eyes in my teens. Those who look at me this way rarely take me seriously. Remembering past experiences, I began to regain my composure. Understood. We'll take our leave, I said as I took Emily and left the Brown residence. Emily followed silently behind me. Then I drove her home, unable to properly respond to her soft thank you and I'm sorry due to my anger. The next day, I was at the office early, unable to sleep well and waking up earlier than usual. While working, I couldn't shake off the incident and turned on the TV for a distraction. To my surprise, the screen displayed employee bullying suspected at Chase Bank. I immediately called Emily. "Good morning, brother. What's up so early? Can you turn on the TV? Chase Bank is being covered for a bullying issue." As she turned on her TV at home, sounds came through. "That's a Chase Bank employee, right? I've seen them a few times. It seems an employee exposed President Brown's bullying to the media." The TV broadcasted recorded conversations between President Brown and an employee, along with interviews from other employees. After watching the news, Emily came straight to the office. "I can't believe he was involved in something like this. If it's gotten this much attention, the bank itself might be in jeopardy. Banks operate on trust. With the company's top brass acting like this, it'd make anyone nervous to keep their deposits there." As we talked, employees began arriving for work, all abuzz about the Chase Bank scandal. Several came to me wanting to close their accounts, worried about potential repercussions on the companies and their personal deposits. After discussing it with Emily, we decided to close all company and employee accounts with the bank. Emily promptly started the cancellation process. After closing our accounts and working on opening new ones, a call came into the office. "Boss, a man claiming to be President Brown is calling for you." "Okay, I'll take it," I responded. Brown's yelling voice came through immediately. "Is it true you canceled all your accounts at once?" "Yes. After seeing the news about the bullying issues, we thought it best to cancel given the uncertain future of the bank. That bullying scandal is just some stupid employee stirring up trouble. It'll blow over soon, but canceling 5,500 accounts at once could endanger our bank's existence. Closing an account is ultimately a personal choice. Our employees expressed a desire to close their accounts, and after discussion, We proceeded with the cancellations. I replied calmly despite his furious tone. However, he seemed even more upset by my words, raising his voice further. Are you kidding me? Is this some kind of revenge for yesterday? Is that it? We didn't cancel our accounts as revenge for yesterday. Although I was truly angered by your words towards Emily, that has nothing to do with the account cancellation. Losing so many accounts now puts our company in trouble. Can't you reconsider? I'll make it worth your while. When I firmly declined, he softened his tone, almost pleading. He even mentioned something unbelievable. It sounded almost like a bribe. President Brown, born into wealth as the son of a bank president, seemed to believe everything could be solved with money. No, thank you. We decline. Perhaps instead you should address the bullying issues you've caused in the past. Ha! That's just weak people complaining. A little money to the press, and it's all settled. That's why I need more money now. I was utterly dismayed by his corrupt mindset. The world isn't as simple as you think. Is there anything else? If not, I'll be hanging up. After ending the call, the scandal continued to unfold, with media coverage intensifying daily. I was busy setting up a new bank account and ensuring payroll went smoothly. Emily had also been busy updating accounting books. Due to overtime, we were swamped with work, often staying late to finish. Then, one late evening, the office intercom rang. Who could that be at this hour? Emily wondered. She opened the door only to find a disheveled President Brown standing there. President Brown? What brings you here? Despite her greeting, he walked straight to me. John, I'd like you to cancel the account closure. I brought a reward today. Wouldn't this convince you? He said that as he presented a thick envelope, presumably filled with cash. I had clearly refused during our previous call, but he, it seems, could not accept that, insisting on a deal so selfishly. President Brown, as I said before, we're not reconsidering. We're busy setting up new accounts, so please, if there's nothing else, we ask you to leave. Even with this much money on the table, you won't reconsider? Then I'll approve the marriage. How about that? The engagement is completely unrelated. If Emily and Michael truly want to marry, they don't need your permission to do so. Why won't you agree even though I'm pleading like this? Frustrated, he bit his lip, glaring at me. It seems you often solve problems with money, but not everything can be resolved that way, nor can a person's true nature be measured by their education, job history, or social status. What you need to see is the essence of people. What are you talking about? Education and status are everything. With them, you can make money and grow into an excellent individual. I sighed, unable to agree. As I've mentioned before, Emily and I grew up without parents. As a teenager, I struggled daily to provide us with enough to eat. We had no money at all. I didn't have an impressive education or work experience, but the previous president kindly hired me. Thanks to that opportunity, I've managed to grow the company significantly over the past few years. You can't judge a person's essence by their money, education, or status alone. Then, while looking down, he muttered weakly, "Was I wrong?" Then he picked up the envelope filled with cash and left the office. A few days later, Brown held a press conference, apologizing to the media and public, confessing that the bullying issues were indeed his fault, and vowing to work on improving and regaining the public's trust for the company. It will surely take a long time to resolve all the issues, but I hope he doesn't give up and continues to address each one. Chase Bank is a precious company that the previous president worked hard to protect. I hope they make efforts to recover, keeping the previous president's spirit in mind. Today, Emily and I stayed late at the office again. I turned on the TV during a break and saw a report about the recent apology press conference. By the way, what happened with Michael after that? He contacted me right after we visited for the marriage proposal, apologizing on behalf of his parents' behavior and words. And what did you reply? I haven't replied yet. I was too overwhelmed that day. And then the news broke the next day. I've been so busy I completely missed a chance to reply.
Michael's probably still waiting for your message. He's the one you decided to marry after all.
After a moment, Emily said, "You're right. I'll contact him."
It seems like the company issues are heading toward a resolution, too.
3 months later, I was at a wedding venue. It was Emily and Michael's wedding. Waiting in the family room, I felt anxious for the couple.
Then Emily, in a beautiful dress, and Michael, in a sparkling tuxedo, approached me.
"Congratulations to both of you. I wish you a lifetime of happiness." Then they shared a tender smile with each other, looking my way.